Welcome to Shepard's virtual training. My name is Heather Caro and I'm your Lexis Account Executive. The purpose of the training today is to help you understand why you should use Shepard's and how to use it. And so this is a brief overview of everything that you'll gain from a Shepard's report. Shepard's reports are broken down into 4 tabs based on the reasons that you Shepardize. The signals will appear on the tab that is causing the signal. Additionally, you can create alerts within a Shepard's report, so you can essentially have the system updating any of the cases that you may be citing to and various documents that you're working on, so you know if anything new has come up without having to rerun the Shepard's report yourself. Additionally, just note that you cannot store Shepard's reports in a folder, but you can update all signals in a folder once documents are saved. The other thing to remember is that all Shepard's reports are updated within 24 hours of a decision being rendered. And so essentially, keeping pace with legal authority requires proven resources that you can trust. And for generations, attorneys have relied on Shepard's for the clearest, most comprehensive picture of how courts have treated cases and statutes. And so we're going to review that today by taking a look at a few different Shepard's reports, whether it be for cases or statutes or even some secondary sources. All right, so once you head over to Lexis Advance, there are a few ways that you can Shepardize. The first, of course, being by simply pulling up a case and Shepardizing directly from the case itself. And so I'll type in that citation, we head over to the case, and so from here you have 2 ways that you can Shepardize. The first is by actually clicking on the Shepard symbol next to the name of the case, or you can look over here and this Shepard's preview box and you can Shepardize directly from that hyperlink here. One thing to note is every time that you're looking at a case on Shepard's, you will notice this preview box, so it's giving us a little insight into what we will see whenever we pull up the Shepard's report. And so this is showing us that we have 115 cases that have cited to Grutter versus Bollinger. And of those 115 cases, 1 of them gave it a questioned analysis, 5 gave it a cautionary analysis, 40 a positive, and then so on and so forth down that list. All right, so we're going to click Shepardize this document. And you'll notice the first tab that it brings us to is the appellate history. The appellate history is the place where you want to go to see how this case got to exactly where it is today. And so the easiest way to view this, especially when it has more than a couple of citations in that list history, if you click on this map view over here at the right-hand corner of the screen, so we can toggle between it, it takes all of that information we were just viewing and it puts it in this map view for us. And so if you scroll down, you'll actually be able to see, we can see that the case started over here at a federal trial court in 1998. It went up to the Federal Intermediate Court of Appeals. It was remanded, so it came back down. Eventually, it was appealed. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court, remanded again, and then the cost and fees and everything else was decided back at the lower court. And so if you wanted to view the appellate history, the easiest way to do so is through this map view. If you're curious as to what some of these colors and symbols stand for, if you come up to the top and click on Legend, that will break down all of those different symbols and the different colors for you. Also, depending on what you're looking at, you might want to change your display options. So just know if you wanted those labels or the prior history, you have the option to alter the type of information that will be shown in that map view. All right, the next thing that we're going to take a look at is the Citing Decisions tab. But we're actually going to take a look at another case because I want to show you guys how you can Shepardize through a different method. And so this is kind of a shortcut to get directly to a Shepard's report. And so in the red search box, if you type in Shep : so SHEP : and then type in the citation of the document that you wanted to pull up. So we're going to do 22 Federal 3rd 736. And that will pull us directly to the Shepard's report, thereby skipping having to go to the actual case itself and then Shepardizing it from there. And so your Citing Decisions tab is the second tab on your Shepard's report. So let's go ahead and select that. And now we're just briefly going to review the different Shepard symbols. And so if you scroll down to the bottom of that Citing Decisions tab, you'll see a legend button there. And if you select on that, that will give you a brief overview of what the different symbols stand for. All right, so we're going to briefly examine the difference between Shepard's and Keysight at this point. All right, so I'm sure a lot of you know the differences, but if you're familiar with Keysight, you already know about the red and green flags. Essentially, there's an algorithm that's working behind the scenes, and it's determining whether a case has negative history associated with it or not. And so therefore, Westlaw is essentially putting everything into one of two buckets, negative or not negative. So if you see a green flag, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a positive analysis associated with that case. It just means that there isn't any negative history associated with it. Lexis, on the other hand, has actual attorneys that are going in and determining the type of treatment that a case has. And it puts all of the cases into one of three buckets: negative, not negative, which would be neutral, or positive. So when you see the red symbols, it essentially means that at least one point of law has been overturned. If you see the blue symbols, it means that something is associated with that case, but it's just a neutral site, and therefore it doesn't necessarily mean that positive opinions or persuasive opinions have followed it. However, when you see the green symbol, that means that there is true positive analysis because those cases are giving your case an actual positive analysis. All right, and so a way that you can very easily remember that is just related to traffic lights. So if you see red, it means negative. You have to stop. Something has been overturned. You have to figure out what. If you see the yellow symbols, that means something has either been questioned or given a cautionary analysis. It hasn't been overruled, but it could have some sort of negative treatment toward the case that you're looking at. Remember, we just mentioned the blue symbols. Those, of course, just mean a neutral analysis. Or you can see the green symbol, meaning go, like traffic symbols, and it just says everything is good to go. Only positive treatment is associated with this case. All right, so let's go back up to the top of the report. And there are a few different ways that you can focus down this report. And so we have 20 decisions. You can see that we have negative analysis associated with this case. And so that means at least one point of law has been overturned. But how do we know what issue has been overturned? So if we come down and do our narrowing by analysis, we can look at the one case that is overruling part of the opinion that we just Shepardized. And so if we click on overruled in part by, that narrows down those 20 decisions down to the one that has given a negative analysis of United States versus Lee. All right, if we wanted to go into this case, United States versus Housey, to see exactly what they're overruling, you would come down to the part that says overruled in part by, and then you'll see this hyperlink with a pinpoint site. If you click on that pinpoint site, it will take us into that United States versus Housey part of the opinion and bring us down directly to the part that is citing to United States versus Lee. So then from there, we can quickly see where United States versus Lee is highlighted. And then if you read through that part of the opinion, we don't have to take time and read through the entire thing. We can read this last paragraph, and it says, in order to bring harmony both within and among the circuits, we now overrule the portion of Lee dealing with the treatment of theft and hold that theft from a person is a violent felony under the Armed Career Criminal Act. The other principal holding of Lee, that classification must be based on the elements of the offense as revealed by the charging papers, and it goes on a little bit further. It says, remains good law. And so very quickly, we know which part of United States versus Lee this Housey case is overruling they were only overruling one point of law. And so if we were citing to the second issue that's still good law, we can still use that United States versus Lee case. All right, so let's go back to our Shepard's report then. And a few other things to remember. If we clear this search, we could also use this report and narrow it down to just positive opinions. And so if we wanted to use this report to say, further our research and find other cases that are giving a positive analysis or following the holding from United States versus Lee, we could select that specific type of analysis. Coming down, you can narrow down your filters by courts that are binding on you. So you can narrow it down by federal or state courts. And then also remember, headnotes are another area that you should always filter by, because not every single case in the Shepard's report is necessarily citing to United States versus Lee for the same point of law that you are. And so if you look through the headnotes and determine which headnote contains the specific reason that you're citing to this case, then you would want to narrow it by that headnote. And so then in your Shepard's report, the only cases that would be remaining were ones specifically giving a positive analysis of United States versus Lee for the same point of law. And then if you had also narrowed it down by a specific jurisdiction, whether it be by a federal circuit court or a state court, you would also have binding authority versus just persuasive. And so these filters on the left-hand side of the screen are really going to help you if you want to use your Shepard's report to expand your research by. All right, we're going to go ahead and pull up another Shepard's report now. And so I'm going to go ahead and type that in the same way we just did. So Shep : 800 Federal 2nd 111. And we're going to go back into the Citing Decisions tab. But I wanted to point out another way that you can view your Shepard's report. And so here you can see that we have 111 cases that have cited to this McNeil versus Economics Laboratory case. We could still use the filters like we just went through, but another way, especially if you're a visual learner, that might be slightly easier for you to do so is to come over and just like we looked at the appellate view in a map view, or the appellate history in a map view, we want to take a look at all of our Shepard's report in a grid view. And so if we click on grid, that takes all of the information, so those 111 cases, and it puts it into two different charts for us. The first one is an analysis by court, which will give us the type of warning, or the type of analysis rather, and the court that those different opinions are coming from. And then beneath that will be an analysis by date. And so once again, we have the type of analysis, but then the dates that those opinions came out. All right, so the way that you can use this, let's just say we wanted to know that one case that was overruling something. If you click on this box, that would then narrow it down and pull back that one case, giving it a negative analysis. The one thing to point out here, this will easily show us that this is coming from the 7th Circuit. And so if we're over here in the 11th Circuit, you can see that there's never been anything overruled from our specific circuit that's binding on us, overruling this McNeil case that we just Shepardized. And so it's a very easy way that you can see a split in authority. Furthermore, if you look at the dates and you scroll over, here we can see that negative analysis came out in 1988. But then in years following, we still had cases that were coming out giving it a positive analysis. And so that should automatically let you know that the entire case, the entire McNeil case that we were just looking at, hasn't been overruled. Only a part of it was, because we have other cases that are coming out later that are still giving a positive analysis of it. And so once again, just another way that you can view all of those cases that we were just looking at in the list view. And again, if you click on any of those boxes, it will essentially apply all the filters to just pull up that one case based on the chart that you were viewing. All right, the next thing that we're going to go ahead and take a look at are our other citing sources. And so this third tab is essentially where everything that has cited to this case that is not a case itself will be housed. And so here, if you look at our filters, right now we're looking at court documents, law review articles, treatises, statutes, and so these are all of the other documents that have cited to the McNeil case that were not necessarily cases themselves. And so if you needed further analysis on the case that you were looking at, it might be great to go look at a treatise or a law review that's specifically citing to it. They might give you a little more of an in-depth analysis so you can better understand that case that you're taking a look at. Okay, so moving right along, we're now going to Shepardize a statute. And so I could still type in Shep : and then it would take me directly to the Shepard's report, or let's just go ahead and type in the actual citation itself, because I want to show you that you can still Shepardize directly from a statute. So not only should you be Shepardizing cases, you should really be Shepardizing statutes or even regulations as well. Okay, so from our statute, here we can see the citation, we can see the actual body of the statute section itself, but once again, to the right-hand side of the screen, we have the Shepard's box. And so if we click on Shepardize this document, it'll pull up the Shepard's report for that specific statute. All right, two important things at the top of this screen. The first thing is pending legislation. And so here we can see the symbol that's associated with it. That's letting us know that something about this statute has been overruled. And so if we, or I should rather say, ruled in part unconstitutional. And so if we click on pending legislation, that will actually let us go in and read the House and the Senate notes from the current Congress and see what they're trying to amend or enact or repeal regarding this statute. And so you can go in and click on those hyperlinks to read those reports. Let's go back a step. The thing beneath that you definitely want to pay attention to would be these subsection reports by a specific court citation. And so if we click on subsection reports, that breaks down all of the cases that have cited to this specific statute. And as you scroll through, you'll notice that it narrows it down by specific subsections. And so if we were citing to or really just focused on, let's just say, subsection A of this specific statute, if you click on that hyperlink, that narrows down all of those cases. We had thousands of cases that had cited to this statute, down to the 300 that are specifically citing to and interpreting subsection A of the statute that we just Shepardized. And so very important, it's going to save you a lot of time if you narrow down by a specific subsection report. Okay, the next thing we are going to take a look at is Shepardizing a secondary source. And so we're going to take a look at a Harvard Law Review article. And this is just to show you that, once again, not only should you be Shepardizing cases or statutes, you can also Shepardize your secondary sources. And that's a great way. First, if we go into citing decisions, we can see this is obviously a great article because we have 3 courts out there that have actually cited to this specific article. But if we want to look to other citing sources, we can see other secondary sources or statutes that have possibly cited to this specific article that you just Shepardized. And then finally, the table of authorities. And we didn't look at this tab yet. So we're going to go ahead and click on table of authorities. And that's where you can essentially find a table of contents for everything that has been cited throughout that law review article. And so if that law review article was citing to a ton of cases that were on point, rather than clicking through the footnotes of that article, you could come to the Shepard's report, click on the table of authorities, and there you'll have a really quick table of contents of every single document that was cited to throughout that law review article that we were taking a look at. Okay, we're going to look at one more Shepard's report, and so I'm going to go ahead and type that in at the top for us. So 165 Federal Supplement, 2nd, 1144. Once again, we're going to focus on the Table of Authorities tab. And the reason I pulled this out, the Table of Authorities in this specific case is, one thing that you'll notice is this case has positive treatment associated with it. However, you can uncover weaknesses in underlying authority if you very simply Shepardize a case and then look at the Table of Authorities. So once again, this Table of Authorities is showing us the 20 cases that this Patrick case relied on for the opinion. However, if you start scrolling through, we'll notice this is one of the cases they relied on, this Conley case is another one, and both of them have at least one point of law that has been overruled. And so if you wanted to see if any of those cases being relied on in an opinion that you're citing to possibly is weak because maybe some of those cases they've relied on have since been overturned, you can do that very easily from your Shepard's report with the Table of Authorities tab. All right, we're going to go through 3 more features and that will wrap up our Shepard's training. All right, so the first one that I wanted to point out is over here at the top left-hand corner of the screen in this drop-down menu. If we go down to LexisNexis Get and Print, let's go ahead and select it. This is where you can pull up and Shepardize multiple cases or really secondary sources or statutes all at one time. And so here you see it says enter your citations. If you're looking for Shepard's reports, you can only include up to 10, but you would just separate them by either doing a hard enter or return on your keyboard or by a semicolon. And then once you typed in those citations, come down, click on Retrieve Shepard's Report, and then you can either send it to yourself as an email, you can download it, or you can even send all of those reports directly to the Lexis printers. All right, so that's one tip on how to quickly Shepardize multiple citations that you have. Another thing that you can do is click on this Shepard's Brief link. That will allow you to upload a document that you're currently working on. So you would just come to choose a file from your computer, upload whatever document it is you're working on, include Shepard's information. It'll actually go through and insert hyperlinks that you can quickly pull up Shepard's reports directly from the document that you've uploaded to the system. And so once again, a really easy way to see if anything has changed with a case or a statute that you've included in a document that you're working on from the point in time that you actually wrote it until the point in time that you're either submitting it to a professor for a class or once you're out in practice before you're submitting it to the court to make sure that all of the law is indeed still good law. All right, and the final thing I'm going to point out, we're going to go back to the home research page. And so to do that, I just came back, clicked on research, that took us home. Remember I mentioned that you can access updated Shepard signals through documents that you've saved in a folder. And so from the home page, if we scroll down to our folders, so let's just click on View All Folders. Let's say I wanted to go into my Open Memo folder. Maybe that's the current assignment that I was working on. So if I click on Open Memo, that will show me all of the documents that I have specifically saved in that folder. And actually I only have one there. So let's go ahead and click on Appellate Brief. We have a few more documents there. All right, and so in this Appellate Brief folder, you can see that I have multiple cases that are saved. But you'll notice it gives us the Shepard symbol and it says this case had this Shepard symbol as of September 16th, 2013. If I wanted to update all of these Shepard signals, so remember at the very beginning we said you cannot save a Shepard's report to a folder. The reason being things change and we don't want you to have incorrect information saved in your folders. And so here, if we come up to the top and click on this Actions drop-down menu, you could then come down to Update All Shepard Signal Indicators. If you click on that, you'll see it gives you this little note. It might take a few minutes, but essentially it's going to go through the entire document and it's going to update all of those Shepard signals. So then it will say, This is the Shepard symbol as of and today's date. So today is March 25th. It updated it. And so now I can quickly browse through all of the cases that I've saved in this folder to see what their current up-to-date status is. So if the symbol had changed at all. All right, and that in a nutshell wraps up our Shepard's review. And so remember, you're using your Shepard's reports not only to validate your case law, but also to expand on it. You can use your table of authorities to make sure that the underlying law cited to in an opinion is indeed still good. The Shepard's report is really going to help you save a lot of time, but also know that you have the best results and you're using the best case law or statutes that are out there. And so make sure that you're Shepardizing everything, you're updating your research. Just because you Shepardize it today doesn't mean that it's still valid law, let's say a week from now. Remember, everything is updated within 24 hours of a decision being rendered. So you should have confidence that you have the most up-to-date research that you could possibly be doing when you're looking at a Shepard's report. All right, and if you guys have any follow-up questions to this video, please feel free to reach out to me. You guys know how to reach me. Just email me, heather.caro@lexisnexis.com. Or of course, if you go to the law school homepage, you'll be able to find other contact information for both me and the student reps there. All right, thanks so much for watching the Shepard's virtual training.